Hi everyone, for this video I'm going to give a brief intro on using coloured pencils. I'm sure these are all things you've used before, but it's a good idea to go into it again, as some people pick up bad habits and everyone teaches everyone a different way, so it's a good idea to just have a rehash. Alright, now I will apologise, as always I've got a cold, so I may sound a bit rubbish. And I'll apologise as well for my visualiser, which, as we all know, does horrible little wavy lines whenever I point at anything. Okay, so first thing about colouring pencils. Second, everyone's given a colouring pencil, they'll drumstick with it, or they'll whack it, or they'll lob it to people, or they'll drop it on the floor. Inside a pencil is a bit of lead. Well, it's not lead, it's a bit of graphite or even just coloured rubbish these days. But it's very fragile. If you drop it, it will shatter inside, or if you hit it really hard, meaning that when you sharpen it, the lead will come out, and then you'll sharpen it again, the lead will come out, we'll sharpen it again, the lead will come out, and that will happen for the rest of the pencil's life. Okay, so try not to do that. Alright, dropping pencils, bad news. Right, basic rules, as we've got here in the guide in front of us here. Obviously I'd normally hand these out so you'd have them on your tables, but you can refer back to this. I'll put this image on the drive so that we can all check it if we need to. We'll be going into colour theory a bit more in later lessons, but we'll just do some basics along with this. Working with coloured pencils, now because pencils aren't like paint, you can't lay them on top of each other. Pencil's a little bit see-through, so once you've put it down onto the white, if you put another colour on top of it, it will kind of muck up, it will look a bit weird, and that will just be how things are. Okay, you need to make sure that you're always working with light colours first, and then you're putting darker colours down. If you put a dark colour down and then try and put a light colour over it, it might go a little bit of that colour, but it probably won't change very much. Okay, so make sure that you're not going over everything. Work neatly. Okay, if you go all over everything, you're going to get horrible pencil marks, and you're not going to be able to take them back. Now, we all know coloured pencil doesn't rub out the same as normal pencil, so try not to make too many mistakes. Don't use black until you really have to. Okay, black has really high permanence, what we call permanence, which means once you put it down, it ain't coming off. Okay, and no matter how hard you rub, that will still stay marked, the rest of that surface. Okay, so only put it down right at the very end, and don't put down too much. Okay, don't press down too hard. 1, you'll damage your paper. 2, you make massive dents in it. 3, once you press hard, there's no way to go lighter. Okay, you can always press harder, you can always go over layer over layer over layer. I've shown in previous shading videos that you always shade lightly, you go over it again, you go over it again, you go over it again. Okay, having patience and going over things once or twice or even 3 times is much better than pressing down hard because you think you're cutting corners and you're saving yourself time. You're not, you're making your work worse. Okay, directional lines to reinforce form. Okay, now form, as we've recapped earlier, is the shape of an object. Okay, how it actually looks and how it's built. Now, we can go into a bit more detail about that later, okay, but you need to think about the shape of your objects when you're colouring them, is essentially what that says. Okay, we'll talk about that and we'll touch that in examples later. Keep your colour groups organised together so it's easier to grab the one you need. Now, some people do this, some people don't. Some people got in their head how they want to work, but for my example, I'm going to be using yellow as my light colour, then a nice light green, then a dark green, then a dark blue, and a black. Okay, now the reason for this is that I want my main colours, I want my drawing to be green. Now green, as we all know, is made up of mixing blue and yellow. But if you look at these, yellow is quite a light colour, so I can use this for my highlighted areas, for my really bright areas, then this, then this, then this is quite dark, this blue. So if I put this blue over this green, it will make them both even darker. Okay, because blue is a colour that makes up green, and then black will be my darkest colour that I'll use very sparingly. So I've organised my colours, I know what I'm going to use. I'm not just picking up random ones, I've got a plan in action. Okay, I also have another light blue here if I should need it, but I don't think I will. Okay, layered colour is more vibrant, so remember your colour wheel and blend to create a wider range of colours. That's exactly what I've just said. Okay, putting down green Yeah, it's all well and good, you made green, okay? But if I layer some yellow over the top of my green, that green's going to suddenly pop a bit more because I've used yellow greens to make it even stronger. And then yellow's in my highlights. All right, I will show you in the example. Okay. So, my word is splat. Yeah, we've looked at this in previous videos. There it is. You can't see it too well, but here is my word. So I've done the bendy writing, okay, and I've made sure that all my words are drawn out well. And it's quite dark actually, this drawing, because I want you to be able to see it. But ideally, in your drawing, you'll do it as light as possible because I don't want much of this pencil to show up in the final drawing. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is grab my lightest colour that I want to use, my yellow. And now I'm looking for all of the areas where the lightest parts of my drawing are going to be. And I want my drawing to look 3D. I want my drawing to look like the splats aren't just flat areas of colour, that they're actually proper splats. Okay, so I'm going to start up in this area. Now, if the light touched this splat here, it would hit this bit here. And you can't see that very well. I'm going to have to do it quite dark. Okay, it would hit there. Now, watch the direction I'm moving my pencil. I'm moving it in the direction of the shape of that droplet. And again, around here. Maybe a bit down here. Okay, and I'll leave it at that for this example. All right. Then, I'm going to move on to my light green. Okay. Using the side of my pencil, again, I hold my pencil really far away. If I hold it like this, like that, yeah, I can only push down hard, and I get these horrible scribey pencil lines. Look, hang on, I'll get a piece of paper here. This looks like that. This looks like that. See the difference? I've got a lot more control here because this is lighter, and I can always layer it again and again and again to make it darker. So I've got a lot more control here. This is a better result. This is the thing that artists will do. This is what you want to do if you want to save time and you don't want a good job. Okay, so this will get you a better mark. Right. So back to the shading. I'm going around the yellow to start off with. Okay, trying to be as neat as I can. There it is. Okay, I've shaded in that bit of green, and I'll shade in this bit of green. Right, there it is. Now I can layer this green. I can go over it again, so I'm pressing over the area again to make it a bit darker in the areas that I want to look a bit darker. I'm not pressing any harder, I'm just going over the area again. There it is. All right, that's done. From there, I can move on to an even darker green. And then, again, I'm using the light, I'm holding it back here, I'm pressing light, and I'm layering over that green with this green. Okay, I'm not going over the whole thing, I'm only going over this side, because I want this side to be dark and this side to be light, so it looks more 3D. Okay, and then I can layer over this again to make it even darker. About like that. I'm not going over all of this. I'm only going over the bits that I want to get darker. Down here as well, I reckon. And then in here. Like that. Yeah. And then finally, well, not finally, because I've got black to do as well. Blue on top. Okay. Again, I can push over this to make it even darker in the areas that I want it to be. And then finally, the last colour, my black. And my black I use, and I am holding this closer because I actually want it to be black. I'm not going around the whole edge, I don't want a cartoon. Yeah, I'm only going around this really dark area I want here. And here. Sorry for that. Maybe shade it a little bit up here. Okay, but there we go, there's my splats. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and do a bit more and show you how I get on. And there's me having done all the yellow. Okay, so I've made sure all my yellow is at the top of each letter where I think the light will hit. Okay, so I'm going to make my whole splat look a bit more 3D and a bit more like water. All right, and here it is with the first layer of green. And here it is with a second layer of green. Now here you can see that I've left some of the lighter green here, up here, and I've gone over some of that green again to make it a bit darker, and it'll look a bit more of a green hue, a brighter green. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the darker tone of green that I've got. And here it is after the dark green. Okay, so what you can see is that I've started by going light, and then I've layered it up a few times, okay, and even pushed a little bit harder in some areas. Now I pushed a bit too hard there because you can see the lines, okay, but overall I'm starting to get a nice variation of different yellows and greens. Okay, so now I'm going to work on a bit of blue, and then I'm going to put the black on. Okay, as you can see, it hasn't changed too much. I've used the blue to darken the dark green areas even more in places. Okay, makes the whole thing pop a little bit more. And finally, I'm going to do the black. And there it is with a little black on it. Again, I haven't gone around all of the black, all of the letters, because that would just make it look a bit cartoonish, and I'm not really aiming for that. Okay, if I wanted to give these a bit more definition, I wanted to make them stand out more, I'd press hard with this green, okay, like this, rather than use black. I could even use a little bit of blue, maybe, to give them a little bit of definition. Okay, but I wouldn't want to use black. At the very worst, dark green or dark blue, okay, to make them stand out a bit more. Okay, give it a go. If you have any trouble, give me a message, and I look forward to seeing what you produce.